why empires rise and fall. I will begin by quoting. You realize I'm a student and practicing as a scholar. So that means I have self-mastery, continuing learning. I interact with truth as I update myself on the happenings of the world to be relevant as a minister in this generation. I wish to quote from a lecturer in the University of Singapore in India, who is a writer, an author of many books. She is a poetess, but in some of her statements, I wish to share with you. She said, and quote, "No empire lasts forever, and no dynasty continues unbroken." She continued to say, "Someday, you and I will be mere legends. All that matters is whether we did what we could with the life that was given to us." End of quote. Men, brothers, and fellow believers, what made empires stand? Some historians have agreed that it is about 12. Others have written 7. Others have written, summarized to 5. Others have written 4. Others have written 3. But in a critical thinking, you can even group them into 2, as I am going to explain for the purpose of this afternoon. I want you to follow what I'm saying very keenly in the light of why the role of men in society is critical, and the role of Christian faith, religion, and culture is so important in sustaining the world and sustaining the physical and invisible empires that has managed to translate abstract to reality. For the purpose of this afternoon and in brief, I'm not being a lecturer, so I avoid that I'm going to be a lecturer. I just want to pass information. It has been found, I want to tell you 2 things, why empires stand. And I will give you 2 things why empires collapse. And these empires begin from a family unit. And then units of families create a cluster. They form a community. And then they form a clan. And then they form cluster of tribes. Form a cluster of races. That makes an empire. And the empire cannot be one community. It is several communities. It is several races. And it manifests itself in 2 forms: territorial conquest and hegemonial management, where territorial means conquest using military, invasion, subjugating other people, bringing down other cultures, and making a new culture the norm by breaking the others. And then the second one, by ruling the minds of the people using philosophy and telling them what's divining wrong from right on their behalf. And you have no and nothing to say. You've got to follow. But for those who are in the center, they have four things that sustain them. But I want to give you three, I summarize. Number one, for any family or a tribe or a community or a cluster of races, for them to be strong enough to form a formidable empire, there must be a defined solidarity of purpose. There must be a reason why we should be who we are. In simple language in sociology, it means there must be a basis of sense of belonging. And there must be a reason to solve and protect the community from what we call identity crisis. Solidarism is an awareness of shared common interest. If you want to address a man, male, part of the human being, he is created feeling a king, and he is created feeling all things belong to him. He is created possessing everyone. But for you to be able to establish a solid society, you must have a kind of a culture of solidarism around interests, around common objectives, around standards, and creating some sense of unity and belonging to a group. That is why, as you talk about, I was in the service today when the pastor introduced couples whose weddings is going to be done. But he went ahead as to challenge the groups, like to create some healthy competition amongst the cell groups of the church. And he said, this first couple, do you know where they come from? It is this fellowship, and they have overtaken the other fellowship. I could hear members saying, no. Yes. That sense of belonging. That sense of belonging. It means what they call many. There are no many without one. And one has no meaning without many. Do you hear me? Belonging, a sense of belonging, is simply saying there are no many without one. And one has no meaning without many. There is a growing philosophy in Africa now which is going to inform the science of leadership and management from the continent of Africa. It is called Ubuntu. We are you, and you are us. Without you, no us. And without us, no you. That is Ubuntu. You must belong to something. You must belong to a group. You must be identified. Number two, what sustains and builds an empire, and it begins from a small house, nyumbani, is what we call a sound fiscal policy in the language of economics. But I'm going to make it easy for you. It is how you manage resources in order to meet obligations for every day. It is the capacity of having a strength to balance between debt and income for your progress. If you are not able to pay your debts, collapsing your kingdom is very easy. If creditors are running you out of town, because of what we call unsound fiscal policy that you have. You don't know how to manage. You lack the capacity to, even for a nation to collapse. If that nation cannot pay its debt and cannot have a plan of revenue collection, that country is on its way out. To be solid, your fiscal policy at home, the miniature, you should be able to meet the needs of your family. Because she has the children and she's the most practical component of your family, she doesn't talk in abstract. She talks about real things. When you talk sugar, a man says, when I get money, I will buy. But a woman says, I can't stay without it. And if the family cannot get it, they will go to the neighbors. You will be lucky if Papa or your elder brother is better. They will go there and is welcoming. If he doesn't have a wild wife, they will go there. If not, they will run to friends. And some of them cannot give for free. There must be some conditionality. They must be available to pay for it. They should be able to pay for it, both in finance or in kind. Whatever that means, I don't know. You don't see your family collapsing, not until you realize that your fiscal policy, you should be able to pay your bills. You should be able to organize yourself and meet your bills. And the bills are in three categories. One, to meet your basic needs. When I got married, I told my wife Rose, two, I told her, you know, your children will never beg bread as long as I'm alive. Because I knew I have a good brain. Yeah, and I had a sound mind. I knew. Huh? So the thing is, what was I happen to make it Maya? Mailing the last etap, or more? Hey, and go mamma, my time, no. So I promised her, it is over 45 years ago. Her children have grown to be grown-ups and they have raised their families. One day I asked my daughter, Amy, the one who sings, the one who really, that this girl, she likes to confront me. So I asked them, how does it feel to be a child of a father who is disabled? He said, Daddy, let me tell you when we were growing up. We used to think everybody else is abnormal. You are the only one normal. Can you imagine? Do you know why? Because I work hard. I work hard. And you know the difference between me and you? I work hard double to do the job you are doing. The first one, I'm trying to convince people that I am a man like anybody else. And then when they agree, I begin now to do the job they are doing. I do double. Even with that, I did twice, and I went at the bar with them. Mami, there is nowhere they have gone. If they have traveled by boat, I have traveled by boat. If they have traveled by plane, I have traveled by plane. If they have visited continents, I have gone to continents. If they have visited islands, I've gone. Fiscal policy of your financial life, you must be aware and committed to. Are you still with me? The third one, as I finish, is what they call the national pride. The sense of pride of your family, beginning from the unit, and then the cluster, and then Oreb, and then the tribe, and then the nation, and then the country, and then the empire. It is the same thing. What happens at the top also happens in the family unit, at home. Are you listening to me, man? I'm talking about national pride. It means positive emotions and expressions which brings cheerfulness, pride, enthusiasm, energy, and joy that you are so and so. Yes, Kitty, about Antonio, Olegaña to go in the Kitty, Kamu was a Wallaga, the Legbo, Irom Jelio. Eh? Kibo Mitke Golia. Kibo Nandi Gaburgo. Eh? Kibo Legi, Jogolio, Kiptagod, Tugulto. That pride, eh? That pride. Some of you are captives of some human rights movement where they say, don't talk about who you are, which tribe you come from. That's why they are destroying the world. Because people begin to lose identity. You must have some sense of pride in you. In what we call national concern is patriotism. Proud to be a Kenyan. You know, I'm a son of a military officer, and I'm so close to the state and statehood that when I see our sons and daughters hoisting the flag of Kenya in the capitals of the world, Kasindan Kiketer, Kasindan Gebiego, Kasindan Eliud, the national anthem of Kenya, Agager Quindi Venderet Parak, Kurangu Gabegako. National pride. I feel proud. That's why Yandan Gawasu too. Alagong Goyabaki Niamon Murinikabe. The river Emon and Combolia Kotomiba. Can you imagine? But you can be in the Agoge, Rotoge, Massacres, Nabio, Tun, the Mengani, Gometano, Kogotutano. You have to have pride, a sense of belonging of who you are. Did you hear what Paul said? I am an Hebrew of the Hebrews. I belong to the house of Benjamin. As to the training, I am the scribe. I belong to the elite of Israel. Can you imagine? The only thing that has made a difference is Jesus on the cross. That he has become a better value than my people. But that is where I belong. And then he wrote in the book of Romans and he said, I am crying for my people, the Jews. So that when others are coming to the knowledge of Christ, I am praying for my people. Some Christians come when they reach Eldoret here. They no longer have an interest of their families and they think they are in a better place. Hii mambo ya kusema napeana msichana na piga bore. Wewe kuja tu chukua mtoto yangu. Yewe utalago urata. Connect them to the source to know they belong to a people. They belong to Marigor, they belong to Bungoma, they belong to Nyansa, they belong to Turkana, they belong to... You know, if you deny people that sense of pride, they become empty. In conclusion, is why should empires and families collapse? Number one is what they call internal decay. Internal decay. Sociologists call it social collapse. And anthropologists call it cultural collapse. And sociologists again call it civilizational collapse. When you lose one part of a person's identity, you are on the way to collapse. When you begin to miss your self-conception, you cannot describe who you are on your way out to a collapse. If you miss to create a perception about who you are, there is got to be certain... When you think about yourself, you think about yourself with pride, or you think yourself as a discouraged man. If you want to know a man who is proud about himself, check the way he dresses, how he dresses. And check the way he eats. In 1979, we had an experience with a friend when he lost an election. I wouldn't mention where. But we met in Nakuru and he was eating. You know, he told me what? You know, the way people eat shows what a perception they have about themselves. The way they eat, the way they dress. This afternoon, I was telling the church, I have self-importance positively, so much that when I go to sleep in the evening, it is only, okay, I sleep late. I read the Lord when I go home. I want to check on something. And then when I go to bed, even my wife knows, for time in memory. If we need any business, we do it before I go, before entering the ship. When I enter there, 3 minutes. Because I have refused kufanya kesi nikiwa kitandani. No. I have accepted that I don't have the whole answer, but I have part of the answer. Another person has something else, and we can drive the world. Na sleep na kungorota. We are at 5. I wake up at 4 or 3:30 or 4. I wake up. But otherwise, unangangana tena. Nikirudi nalala. You cannot succeed as a man to lead your family if you are decaying in your self-perception, if you no longer have it. You don't have confidence. One of the challenges of our modern men today, our sons and our younger brothers, is that they are struggling with identity crisis. They have been destabilized by the message of feminism, where they say equality. Until you think equality means we are copycats. We are not copycats of each other. We are naturally created differently, with a role to play. And man is distinct from a woman. I want to tell you, brother, you are not a woman. You are a man. Because of where? Call a muren. Call a muren. Ninasema wewe ni mwanaume. Wewe si mwanamke. But you see, feminists are trying to say it is possible for a man to be a woman. And that it is possible for a woman to be a man. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And we are holding this meeting at a very critical moment in the history of Western civilization. When in the next 1 month, they are introducing the new syllabus, a new program of education that is going to kill this generation, called Comprehensive Sexuality Health Education. The impact of this is that it will separate parents with children from the age of 4. And that a theory has been developed that the definition of self-perception and realization will no longer be the right of the parents, but it is the right of the child with assistance of the third person, and that is a doctor. That a child, you no longer want to tell the child you are a boy or you have been born a girl. At the age of 4, they will be given the right to decide whether they want to feel like to be a girl or they want to be a boy. Are you hearing me? These are our children, our grandchildren for years. Do you want to be a boy or you want to be a girl? When the boy decides that I want to be a girl, all the sexual organs will be removed and create a prototype of a woman in him. And the name changes. And then they induce hormones of a boy, of a girl, and she begins to grow breasts. But when that boy and girl in the embodiment grows up, that attitude, because as God created a spiritual being and having a body of a man, when they grow up to the full age, they will struggle with identity because they will realize they are men. The tragedy about it, it cannot be reversed. One of the greatest challenges that we have in families now is that because boys have been lured into believing that they can be women, other men have married other men in our houses today. Not somewhere in Europe, here in Eldoret. There are men who have married women, but they themselves, they have been married by other men. This generation, without you men in the church rising up, it is collapsing too soon. It is a generation on its own way out. In fact, Europe is collapsing by 2050. Europeans, as we know, will lose their continent. And that is why they are busy coming to North Africa to take the machotoras who are born of the soldiers by Spanish people across in Morocco, Libya, these white ones in Libya, this is their blood. They are taking them to Europe. So in 2060, Europeans shall be Islamic. The continent of Europe, 27 countries, will have gone to Islam. And Africa. So the black Africa will be between 2.5 billion to 4 billion in the next 30 years. And they are fearing because an African is so hardy that it is going to move north and take over. Because nobody will be running the machine. For now, nobody is running machine. That is why your sons and daughters, they are the ones who are doing the manual work to support their education in Europe. Because they don't have children, they have machines, they have a country, no one to run. In fact, from the Commonwealth, between now 2024 and beyond, they will be recruiting soldiers from Africa, from the Commonwealth. And Kenya will be beneficiaries among other countries because of their English-speaking community. So your son and others will go there. The reason why they are introducing this comprehensive education is because they don't have children to train in their country. They have younger people in Africa. Today, Africa is 1.4 billion people today, going to 5. 75% are young generation. It is the youngest continent now. And the fastest growing population. The second fastest population is Asia. Because they are encouraging heterosexual relationship, where a man marries women, in fact, more than one. They marry 4. So you find one elder producing from his lineage 40 children, 10 for every wife. Will the European match? Those who are bearing 2 children, and even none sometimes, their women are fearing to have the stretch mark of birth. So that is number one. Cultural collapse. Second, what follows is that in the cultural collapse or the collapse of a society is what we call social order. Then the definition of largely African continent and Kenya in particular, we are a patriarchal society. There are only 2 systems of arguing. Either you are a patriarchy or you are a matriarchy. But they are coming with a new thing called transgender. There is new genders now. In fact, they have reached 170 definition of gender. And they say gender is not male and female alone. There are those with double. There are those they like dogs. There are those with like children. They want to have sex with children. There are those who would like to have sex with the space. Something gender. And do you know, all this is targeting on the boy child. It is targeting the man. And I want to say to you, Chairman, and the leadership of the church, AIC Fellowship, you have done better than all of us by having a meeting for men. And I say this as an experienced clergy. I've been in the business almost half a century. Dr. Jimuri Natiti, uno baba melenga osu lakini ko it ko menye negit kirki kalen dalo gure bitte ba mati kale tai tingi kirki onda nanyo ya bagini ale kini pik kitari rogir lala nanyo tarami kirki ne nanye Lelenga rige ya ne gara mauno tak magai ke saboteri le melenga britai mangite bile na britai ma britai ke ya am ke maje. In conclusion, my brothers, again What brings down is when we are no longer accessing finances to meet our needs. Over the last few years, there has been a campaign from 1965 today which has favored women more than men in three ways. One, they have campaigned against the leadership of patriarchy. And therefore they say social order is not led by the man. They say we can all lead. Kwa hivyo, tasema sisi tuko sawa, and they call it equality. And they have campaigned against it, and they have succeeded in the last over 60 years. Number two, they have also emphasized on legal framework that favors a woman and work against the man. If you go to court today, the laws of this country and countries of the Western world favors a woman more than a man. Because it's the law itself. Many people are now have parted with their money to support children they have been tricked into, both in Europe and those who are businessmen, politicians. So let me tell you the truth. Let me speak the truth to you. It has worked against the men. And the third one is economic empowerment. It was precipitated after Beijing in 1980. All financial institutions, they have developed a product which is woman-friendly. It doesn't need collateral. They need to be in a group, and they access finance. And do you know, women are better off. They are living on credit. If you check their credit card, it has been emptied. We talk with because of that, they have come to the church. And they are asking us even to change the Bible. They are asking us that the church, the Bible is more man-dominated faith than woman. We would like the Bible to produce another more moderate, that the God of Christianity is more patriarchy than gender sensitive. In this case, the conservative Christianity still remains, Islamic still remains, and it will remain for many years, but soon we are going to have a war. We call it a moral war.